Some scuttlebutt about Heather. Concerns me.
Concerns me even more.
Then it's true. She's going to get outpatient status 1 day a week?
Yeah, like rain from heaven.
When does all this start?
Right away.
Wow.
Yeah, wonderful news, isn't it?
Jeff, she's going to expect to see PJ.
That's what I came in here to think about, how to stop it. But there doesn't seem to be any way to stop it, short of standing at the door with a gun. That's kind of an insensitive thing to be saying at this point in time, isn't it?
What can you do legally? Injunction? Court order?
Sure. How long do you think that would work? All Heather has to do is get a lawyer and she'd hang me out to dry. She is still PJ's mother. She's got some clout with that, whether I like it or not.
Obviously, you don't have too many choices, but you gotta do something.
Tell me. Things are already shaky with Ann and me, and now this. I don't think our relationship can handle much more, Rick.
Yeah, that's been rough for her.
Rick, I don't know that.
I know. I realize that.
Put my back up against the wall, Rick. I don't have any answers this time.
The worst part of it's over. Now all that's left is to finish getting rid of the evidence. There's nothing left of Diana's will. That's been taken care of. The cape's been returned to Dr. Nelson's office closet. And the nurse's uniform, the cap, and the shoes. They're all safely back where they belong in the laundry room and the locker room. Get rid of these gloves, all right. But the keys. How am I going to get rid of those keys? Okay, would you meet me back here in an hour? Perfect. Have fun. Oh, Amy, you're wonderful. I know, but nobody else does, so pass the word. I just saw your sign and it reminded me I'm forever forgetting my keys. Could you please duplicate them for me? I'll wait.
Kathy, sometimes I wonder how I am going to survive all this. Biology, physiology, and nutrition all in the same day.
Well, I'm sure glad I'm a freshman. It's hard enough just getting through the lower division stuff.
Well, just be glad that you're not in nurse's training. At least you don't have to dissect a frog before you eat lunch. I'll see you later.
Amy, listen. There's something I wanted to ask you.
Yeah?
What's going on with Joe Kelly?
What do you mean?
Well, he's been asking me all these questions about Heather Weber, you know, how she spent every moment she was here over Christmas.
Well, you know how Joe is. He's always asking a lot of dumb questions. I mean, he even asked about Mrs. Grant's keys that she lost in... I don't know how Heather could have had a chance. I mean, even if she wanted to take those keys, which she didn't.
Well, she did go out a lot.
Yes, but we were always with her.
Could somebody have taken her somewhere where she could have duplicated those keys? Like a shop or someplace?
Now, why would Heather want to duplicate Mrs. Grant's keys anyway? That's just silly, Kathy.
Well, if it isn't the prettiest two co-eds on campus.
Hi, Joe.
What are you doing here?
Well, shucks, even us old folks got to come back to school every now and then.
Well, speaking of school, I've got to get to a science class.
Oh, do give my regards to Louis Pasteur. I love what that man did for milk.
Well, if I see him, I'll tell him. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Well, Joe, it's just been swell talking to you again.
Oh, do you have a class?
No, as a matter of fact, this is my study hour.
Oh, good. An hour's about all I need to ask you a couple questions.
All about your questions.
Guess I'm not as shrewd as I thought I was.
That's for sure. Because now you were going to ask me about Heather and everything that Heather did while she was here at Christmas time, correct?
You nailed it. I guess I got a couple curiosities working.
Well, let me remind you, just to refresh your memory, Heather is my friend. In fact, Heather is one of my best friends.
I think that's terrific, Amy. I really do.
Oh, you really do, huh?
Yes, I do. I think that Heather needs a friend. And you seem to be the only one in Port Charles that'll stand up and be counted in that regard, from what I hear.
Well, now, how would you like it, Joe, if you were locked up with only your roommate to talk to?
It would be a bummer.
And Mrs. Grant doesn't count, because Mrs. Grant is Heather's mother, and talking to your mother is not the same as talking to your
you're
friend.
Absolutely right. There is a great difference between mothers and friends. And speaking of Mrs. Grant, that brings up an interesting point.
Which is what?
She's not too thrilled about the fact that Heather's going to be coming home to Port Charles on a weekly basis as an outpatient.
Well, now, that doesn't surprise me at all. Haven't you noticed the way Mrs. Grant treats her own daughter? If you ask me, I don't think she cares about her at all. Now, you see, you don't know this, but when Heather needed a pair of warm winter gloves to walk to and from her therapy sessions, she had to ask me to buy them for her. Now, you didn't know that, did you?
No, I didn't know that.
You see, she didn't even want to ask her very own mother. Now, that should tell you something.
Yeah, it does tell me something, Amy. It was very nice of you to buy Heather those gloves.
Well, I didn't mind, not like some people I know. In fact, I was even willing to bring her to him the very same day she asked me for them, and I was busy.
You're a real friend, Amy. What kind of gloves were they?
Warm gloves.
Oh, no, I didn't know they were warm. I just meant, were they wool or lambskin or calfskin, leather? What?
I don't remember. What difference does that make, Joe? Can't I buy my friend a nice pair of warm gloves without somebody making a big deal about it?
Come in. Heather, I have the most marvelous news for you.
Really? What?
Dr. Nelson has decided that you are ready for outpatient status.
Are you sure?
It's confirmed. And he thought you'd like advance notice so that you can make your plans to visit Port Charles.
Oh, thank you. And please tell the doctor how much I appreciate it.
I will.
I do want to make plans. All kinds of plans.
Like to be a big brother to me and tell me what you'd do about Heather?
Jeff, I don't have any definite answers for you.
But you got some ideas, don't you?
I've given a lot of thoughts. I got one idea. It's a little unorthodox, and some people would probably say it was a cowardly way out. But I think it has some merit.
Cowardly.
You take PJ and you run. You just go. You put as much distance as possible between Heather and your son.
You mean leave Port Charles?
That's exactly what I mean.
Look, you gotta be kidding. What about my job here at General? What about Ann?
I think time will help you work a lot of these things out. As to your job here, I think that's something that we have to present to Steve.
Oh, yeah. Steve would love to hear your suggestion.
If you like, I'll lay it all out for him. He didn't get to be chief of staff because he had a closed mind.
But you're asking me to do something right off the wall. I mean, that's crazy. Just take PJ and split.
Jeff, I'm not saying it's the world's best idea, but it is an expedient course of action, and I think that's exactly what you need now. Friday is just a few days away.
Rick, there are an awful lot of strings attached to this. All right. Let's assume that Steve goes along with the idea. I still got to think about Ann. She can't leave Port Charles. She has to stay here and answer questions for the police if they need him.
I know that.
And Jeremy, I mean, his school, he can't just pick up and move off into limbo.
When I made the suggestion, I was not suggesting that you take Ann and Jeremy with you. What you really need now is space. Space between Heather and PJ.
Just like that. Just pack my bags and leave. Disappear, right?
As far as Heather is concerned, yes, only Heather.
Well, you're right. It's definitely the coward's way out, isn't it?
Maybe not. But it's your decision. And only yours, no one else's.
Well, maybe I am a coward at that.
Jeff, you'll be starting a home for PJ in another city somewhere. And it might give you the opportunity you could use to try and work something out between you and Ann without a pressure of having Heather trying to see you every free minute she gets.
Yeah. Well, all this kind of depends on Nelson, doesn't it? Whether he thinks Heather's getting better or not.
What do you think?
Oh, you know damn well what I think. She's fine. She's been faking it.
All right, why don't you lay your options out on the table? She has to have outpatient care if she's ever going to be declared competent, and she's got to be declared competent before you can start a divorce proceeding. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's when it all starts, doesn't it? Custody battle for Steve and Lars.
Any word on Joe's investigation?
Yeah, he's got a lot more going than I thought he possibly could. It turns out that Mrs. Grant had 2 sets of keys to Diana's apartment, one of which was lost over the holidays for a couple of days.
And somebody could have found those keys and let themselves in Diana's apartment.
Yeah, well, Mrs. Grant said she lost them or misplaced them. That was her story. But the keys showed up as if by magic.
We'll be going for a minute.
No, wait a minute. We're listening.
Yeah?
Amy found the keys at Les's house, behind the cushion in the sofa.
Heather was in Leslie's house.
You got it. You got it. It's all starting to fit. It's all starting to add up that Heather was involved somehow. At least that's how Joe and I are starting to see it.
Well, there are a lot of coincidences. Heather being there when the keys were lost, and Heather being there when they were mysteriously found again.
And that's why Joe is still digging so hard.
All right, can those keys be definitely tied to Heather? I mean, conclusively.
No, not yet. But Joe thinks that if she had access to them, she could have had a duplicate made.
Sure. Then she could have very conveniently arranged to have them found again.
Basically, that's it. Now, we don't have anything positive yet. We got this gut feeling about it.
Jeff, sometimes that's the best feeling to have. A little voice inside you that says, hey, there's something wrong. Yeah. Well, what do you do next?
Well, if we can prove somehow that Heather had a way to get into Diana's house.
Not enough. Not enough. What do you mean? What do you mean? If you're going to prove something, Jeff, I would think what you really got to prove is that Heather could have gotten out of and back into a maximum security institution the night that Diana was murdered. Let's go see Steve.